like to go a little bit more specifically into Delicate Creatures, which your influences from the pandemic are showing, I think, all of that consumption. And you have a great video. Would you share a little bit about your inspiration for that? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that one, or at least
Yes.
recognize it. Yeah.
I hope so. So I've been kind of transparent about what this one is based off of because, well, I'll explain that later. It's based off of Killing Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just one of those shows I just became completely obsessed with it. And I think one reason I became obsessed with it is at the time, I mean, I still feel like there's a bit of a dearth of lesbian content, lesbian TV shows and movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes my partner and I sitting down on the couch at night and I'm like, I just want to watch something queer, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, we can rewatch Carol. We're kind of going through.
We'll get to Carol. We'll get to Carol.
Yeah, we'll get to Carol. We're kind of going through. We're like, are there any new ones? And oftentimes there are new ones, and maybe it's like a high school teen drama. I feel a little too old for those these days, so not my go-to. But Killing Eve told a queer love story in a very sexy way.
Yeah. And
so I was just obsessed with it. And so the music video is based on Villanelle's obsession with Eve. And I tried to make it really just a pure, sweet love song. Like, of course, it has a twist of darkness because of who Villanelle is. And hopefully, if you're watching, you know, you should go watch that show too. But yeah, I just think that her love for Eve was so sweet and obsessive, and it was fun, you know? So I tried to pay homage to that, pay homage, however you say that.
I say homage, I don't know. Some people say homage, I say homage.
Homage, I think that's nicer.
I mean, I'm from Connecticut and a little bit pretentious, so I don't know if it's correct.
Yeah, I try to be pretentious, so I'll say homage.
All right. Well, and you also have a nod to what feels like a little bit of your musical theater roots as well, and to queerness with Goldfish, which is a nod to Fun Home, Alison Bechdel's graphic memoir, and of course was made into this amazing musical. And there is a nod to Ring of Keys in one of your lyrics, right?
Yes, I'm so glad you caught that. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm a musical theater.
Oh, okay, cool, great.
Yeah.
So I did the show Fun Home a couple years ago, actually, and I played the medium Allison character. And I was really taken with the Ring of Keys song. I mean, it just really spoke to a time in my life where I was in soccer as a kid, and my soccer coach was sort of that classic butch lesbian. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, who is this? I've never seen anyone like you in my life. And I, for some reason, want to keep going to soccer practice, even though I'm horrible at soccer, because I want to see this person, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of wanted to tell my perspective of the Ring of Keys story, because I think that's a really important moment in a queer person's life, is that moment of recognition where you see yourself in your community.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. And did that happen? You grew up in Virginia, right? So that soccer team was in Virginia.
Yeah. So I grew up in a really small town with, I think, 9,000 people. And so, I mean, I did theater. So of course there was, I remember meeting a gay man for the first time, but I never really met or was introduced to people that were lesbians or had wives or anything like that. So that was sort of my first introduction to that, which was exciting. And she used to bring her girlfriend to soccer practice. And I was like,
I love that.
That is so cool.
All right. So I'm going to show you something. 1 second. If I can grab it. Where did it go? It's on vinyl.
Oh my God. Awesome. Okay, so I'm talking to the right person.
Yeah, so I was really excited to see and listen to the song Dark Room. And it's a nod to Patricia Highsmith's The Price of Salt, but also the film Carol. And I wonder if you would talk a little bit about the creation of that song and the perspective.
Sure. So actually, I think that was the first song that I wrote from this album. And it kind of sparked the creation of, or the inspiration for, oh, this is kind of cool writing from a different perspective. Why don't I keep trying this? Yeah. So that was the first song off the album. And I'm trying to remember what prompted me to write this. Gosh, it was a while ago. I think that, like I was saying earlier, my partner and I love to watch queer movies. And so this was one before I found Killing Eve that that I just kept coming back to. It just felt like a really important film. And then during the pandemic, I read the novel, and it was really powerful to me to see a queer story that ended with the two women together. Well,
it's hopeful, very hopeful.
Hopeful, and nobody gets killed off.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is so great. And you just see that, okay, two women can be together and be happy, and there's hope there, Right. So when I set out to write the song, I don't know, I think there's a certain sense of longing that the character Therese has when she's on that. So I'm talking about the film now, like when she's on that train ride back from Carol's house, mm-hmm. and she starts crying, like, I feel like a lot of us had felt that, where it's like, it's early on into our maybe coming out days, and we feel all of these intense things, and they are just overwhelming, mm-hmm. and scary. And so I think I wanted to just talk about that feeling of longing, yeah. like in the heart, but also like in a sexual way too, sure. Yeah. Where it's like, I want this person, but I only really feel safe truly looking into their eyes when I'm like in my dark room developing photos of them, Mm-hmm. It's like that moment where she takes the picture of Carol, and mm-hmm. Carol kind of catches her, and it's like a sheepish moment where she's like, she doesn't want to be seen looking at her. Yeah. But she so badly wants to look at her.
I wonder, you're making this music that is very inherently queer. And I wonder what your audiences are like and what it means to you when you get maybe young people who come up and say, I really feel seen by your music or this work that you're doing.
Well, to touch on what my audiences are like, obviously they're very gay. Although it's kind of interesting because my last show that I played, it was a bit small and intimate, because I always get the feeling of when I'm about to play a new batch of music, I need to do something very, very safe, which is to play in the smallest venue I can find for a few close friends and fans, So yeah. I set up a show a couple months ago, and it was kind of interesting because, I do have a few grown men that were in the grown men that were in the audience, and they're just sobbing. Aww. And so I think it is interesting that it does touch mm-hmm. People's hearts, and not just in the queer community. Right.